right, so I've seen a gentleman's comment. I'll refrain from giving his name. It's just what it is out of respect for him, okay? And so I got some sleepers in my eye. I'm back to my regular sleep schedule, which is really nice. Let's go over some things here, all right? I have many mentors. I have many people that communicate with me and have helped me ascend of the mind to understand who I am, the powers that I possess, the difference between lawful and legal, the difference between right and wrong was firmly established at a very young age for me. And I have some people that are inquiring, are saying, look, I'm in an abundance of trouble here with child support. They've taken everything from me, my license, my house, my everything. First and foremost, it's about knowing who you are, all right? You have to know who you are, period. And if you don't know who you are, then let me tell you a little secret. They will define, depict, and tell you who you are, all right? It's so important. It's elementary. It's basic in its fundamental nature. All right, it's the very fabric and foundation of moral fiber, okay? And in order to exhibit that kind of strength, that persona, right? In order to really elaborate and capitalize on that is the ability to be able to see through the bullshit, pierce the corporate veil of lies. Now, under the military doctrine, military occupation, right? Abraham Lincoln, executive orders, declaration of war, no proclamation to end the war. From that point on, it has been nothing but executive orders declaring national emergencies. You got the war on drugs, you got the war on education, you got the war in other countries, you got the war within the United States, you've got the war on the border, you've got the war everywhere. The war on food, the war on drugs, the war on fucking pharmaceuticals. You got the war on natural homeopathic medicine. There's all kinds of bullshit rhetoric and excuses for perpetuating a war that really only exists in the minds of men. Okay, you have to ascend of the mind and really comprehend what's going on. Under the military doctrine, all agents and agency are allowed to lie to you. Period. End of fucking discussion. So, you have to be the determining factor of fact from fiction, bullshit from reality. Alright? And part of discovering who you are, you're going to have to read. It's one of the best kept secrets throughout the ages of time. One of my great mentors once told me, Derek, you want to keep a secret? Write a fucking book. Don't tell anybody. Just put it in a book, write it in a book. And I sat there just perplexed by his statement. And so later on I called him up. I said, what the fuck do you mean if you want to keep a secret, you publish it in a book? He goes, because people innately are fucking lazy, Derek. However, if you utter it, meaning orally speak it into existence, no doubt people will continue to re-illustrate it or orally speak it into existence, all right? But if you put it into a book, the odds of somebody actually fucking reading it are slim to none because people typically are lazy. Now, I don't know if his assessment is correct. However, I do know that people really don't have the time to do what myself and so many others are doing. We've put ourselves in a position, thanks to you guys, all your support, to be able to disseminate this information to you in hopes that you will see the difference between fiction and reality, all right? So I'm gonna do this little video, kind of help you guys out. I've posted some great information about child support. Understanding commerce. Commerce is nothing more than a way to wage war. That's what commerce is. Now, if you don't believe me, just think about this. Let's say you own a business. You want to be competitive. What is part of being competitive? It's part of being a warrior, part of competing, knowing when to cut your losses, knowing when to hold them, knowing when to fold them, knowing when you need to, be a little more lenient so as to acquire the bid or the opportunity to put food on the table, right? It's the very definition of fucking war, all right? I'm competing with everybody else out there that has skills in a trade or a craft and can provide the same substance that I provide, which naturally constitutes war. Commerce is war. I don't care how the fuck you slice it, dice it, and look at it. It doesn't fucking make a damn bit of difference to me how you perceive it. I know what it is. I see it for what it is, okay? Commerce is war. Commerce is a way for people to do things that would otherwise be immoral, okay? What do I mean by that? There's a lot of agents and agency out there and corporations that continually do things that are immoral. They're wrong. Innately, they're wrong. They cause harm, damage, loss, injury. Nestle is a perfect example of that. Stealing water from communities and then turning around and bottling it back up and selling it to them for fucking 70 to 80 times more than what they paid for it. Okay? That's war. That's commerce. Okay? That's for profit and gain. It's privateering. It's pirating. Okay? And I don't have anything against commerce. So long as you understand what commerce is, I don't have an issue with capitalism. I really fucking don't. Okay? Government was instituted amongst men to keep commerce in check, to make sure that it wasn't hurting the populace of the nation. All right? They have egregiously failed on so many levels, it's not even fucking funny. Okay? When conglomerates get so big that they literally price you out of the natural resources that belong to the people, period. End of fucking discussion. All right? There's no argument with me. You're never going to win that fucking battle. I am very open-minded, but the things that I have been shown in my life, the things that I have read, being able to disseminate this information and think about it logically, practically, and rationally, when you see a huge conglomerate like Nestle that can simply fucking rob, rape, pillage, and steal from the people's resources, all while making enormous profits and not doing anything to end world hunger, famine, diseases, so on and so forth. I mean, it's an absolute fucking atrocity, okay? Not to mention that Nestle has personally, the representatives for Nestle. Nestle is a fiction. It doesn't fucking talk, okay? It doesn't have a heartbeat, doesn't have a soul, doesn't jerk off, doesn't masticate, doesn't urinate, doesn't defecate, doesn't kiss babies, doesn't shake people's fucking hands. Nestle is a fictitious fucking entity, which allows people to go in as agents and agency and do acts that would otherwise be immoral. They might actually have a hard time sleeping at night if it wasn't for the mindset that, oh, well, that wasn't me, that was Nestle. That wasn't me that made a decision that caused hardship and strife on your life. That was the corporation identified as Nestle. Now, when you hear these statements, a lot of people gobble that garbage up. They eat that bullshit. Nestle can't jerk off, all right? Nestle don't take showers. Nestle don't wipe its ass. Nestle doesn't scrub its butt. Nestle doesn't fucking do a fucking thing, all right? It's a corporation. It's a veil for people to do things that would otherwise be immoral and still be able to, at night, go home and sleep, okay? Because in their mind, I didn't do anything wrong. I work for a corporation named Nestle. This is what was advised to me. Nestle's the one that did this. No, you took advice from a lawyer. You carry the primary active degree of fault for what you have done. You're 100% liable for crimes against humanity. You made that decision, not fucking Nestle. All right? You have to be able to see these things in order to articulate them, to bring them into existence. They already exist, but if you don't know how to articulate it in a court or to others, then it's just nothing more than a thought that you have that you can't prove. I can prove these things that I talk about. There's not even a need to prove them. They're fucking self-evident. The fact that I have to explain this to educated fucking idiots drives me up the fucking wall. Absolutely drives me insane, because the people that I so often have to explain this shit to are purported government agents and officials. All right. These people are purportedly intellectually superior to the rest of us, yet seemingly so fucking incompetent that they can't distinguish the difference between reality and fiction. Or could it be they know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about, and they use this thing called plausible deniability, and they hide behind this curtain called 11th Amendment qualified immunity, okay, which presupposes that no man is above the law, that the very notion that no man is above the law is vague and ambiguous and open for interpretation, which I don't feel that it is, okay? In fact, I know that it's not. No man or corporation or anything else in this world is above the law, period. But people say a lot of times, Derek, well, you think, and this comes from a lot of agents and agencies, state troopers, fucking military personnel, all kinds of fucking bullshit con artist motherfuckers that really don't know the truth. All right. They've been subjected to indoctrination to such a degree that they actually believe the putrid vile coming out of their fucking mouth. All right. Oh, you think you're above the law. I have never once said that I'm above the law. In fact, I hold myself to a standard that they couldn't even fathom, because the law absolutely applies to me, and I am absolutely subject to the law. However, I am not subject to the statutory whims of the legislator, Congress, state legislators, or any of them fucking cockamamie fucking idiots that can't balance a checkbook themselves, that don't exhibit the conduct for the very legislation that they pass. For example, there are many of these cretins in the government who pass laws about child abduction, extortion, malfeasance, human trafficking, but yet seemingly all of them engage in the very acts that they deem to be illegal. Now, to me, that's nothing more than hypocritical thinking. These people are hypocrites, all right? Very cut fucking dry. Can't get any simpler than that. The proper name, pursuant to Title 18, USC, subsection 1342. Now, remember, this is the shit they came up with. Remember when Jesus came before and stated, are your laws not the same as my Father's? And they got so irate. Yet as they went back to review their laws, they were in fact in harmony with God's law. And I'm going to show you why that's relevant, why that's pertinent. And again, it's about ascending of the mind, putting your foot down and telling people to fuck off. Fuck off. All right? And you have the ability and the conscience and the wherewithal to do it. Point blank and fucking simple. There are ramifications for violating my unalienable rights. Mark my fucking words. There are ramifications for it. There are causes of action. They don't require violence. They don't require anybody to lose an ounce of dignity while enforcing their rights. Okay? And this goes for all fucking nations, but this just happens to work and be exhibited here in the United States, which is the greatest experiment the world has ever seen. Remember, all other nations, all other countries were run by Khazars, dictators, fucking overzealous fucking tyrants, and so on and so forth. America is a little different. And that's why they attack the American thought process and way of life so greatly. Because if the experiment of the American dream works, it will single-handedly destroy every other nation's thought process throughout the world. That people don't need people to lord over them. That people don't require dictators or tyrannical assholes lording over them, oligarchies and monarchs and everything else. Do you see why America, the concept of Americana, is so dangerous to the rest of the world? And yet your puppets for Washington, D.C. run around and placate about a democracy. Fuck a democracy. You want a republic, for which it stands. One nation. What is the nation? It's the people. The people are the nation, governing themselves by sound doctrines, logic, principles, something that would be manifested or purported to be the law that is common to all. Keep your fucking hands and feet to yourself. Don't start no shit, won't be no shit. Don't steal what don't fucking belong to you, right? Pretty fucking basic concepts, all right? And I think, you know, what's funny to me is being in a classroom full of kindergartners, they can all tell you this shit. They all can tell you this. So it's not like it's some very articulate, intelligent, educated man telling you this. Go talk to a few little ones, and they will tell you the same. It's innately wrong, Derek, to take from somebody else. I agree. And for that reason, we agree that that's the law. And the little ones will say, yep, it's the law. Mom says, I'm not allowed to touch things that don't belong to me. I have to agree with you. You're not supposed to touch shit that doesn't belong to you without fucking permission from somebody who purportedly owns it. I agree. So would that be the law? And they'll go, yep, Derek, that is the law. Pretty fucking simple. So, proper name, pursuant to Title 18 USC 13, subsection 1342, Title 6 CFR 37.3, Real ID Act, Public Law 109-13, 119 Stat 302. Okay? So, we can all agree that Congress, the legislator, the state legislator, all have been able to identify what a real fucking name is. And the only reason people don't use their real name is so they have plausible deniability, so they can disrupt your attempt to get remedy. Period. Okay? It's a way for them to conceal information so you won't have such an easy time of holding them commercially liable and personally liable. That is the only reason people conceal their name. That is the only reason they write, for example, Derek S. Gonzalez, because it's not on any registry. You're not going to find Derek S. Gonzalez anywhere. Well, you will for me anyway, because I've registered all this shit. All right. But, however, the reason people are doing these things is so they have plausible deniability. Well, you're saying that Derek S. Gonzalez did this to you, but the problem is Derek S. Gonzalez doesn't exist. You're chasing a phantom. You're chasing something that hasn't ever been created and isn't recognized. It's fucking genius. Okay? When you see agents and agency on the side of the road wearing a fucking name placard that says D. Gonzalez, I can prove they had intent to operate in commerce using a false and fictitious unregistered name in order to egregiously extort me, okay, on the side of the fucking road engaged in piracy, a violation of Title 18, 1661, and an act of concealment to issue securities on the side of the road and failed to pay the transfer taxes under Title 26, 2603, 2602, 2001, and 2002. I can fucking prove it, but I know this shit. All right? Everybody goes, well, Derek, why are you using their codes and everything? Because it's what binds them. It's the contract those motherfuckers entered into, and they're absolutely bound by that shit. It ain't fucking rocket science. All right? So, yes, do I use their codes? I absolutely use their codes against them. Tell me that this doesn't fucking apply to you, you fucking mongoloid. Tell me that you're not guilty of piracy on the fucking highways, freeways, byways, and passages, operating your cruiser between islands and shipping lanes. Because that's exactly what the fuck you're doing, which is piracy on the land as soon as your fat fucking foot hits the dirt and walks to my automobile, for which I have the right to go to and from peacefully in enjoying the pleasure of my life. All right? You can't regulate that. However, they'll tell you they can, and they get away with it a lot. Why? Well, because many people don't understand how to articulate the crime that's afoot, the felony that's afoot, the laws that bind them for the contracts they entered into. Remember, ignorance of the law excuses no one, for all men are responsible for knowing the contracts they fucking entered into. They entered into a contract. I accept their oath of office. Why? Because I'm the beneficiary of that fucking oath. They're the trustee. They're responsible and carry a fiduciary obligation, all right? Not to accost me against my will, engage in malfeasance under the color of law, under the color of fucking authority, under the auspice that the legislator granted them some magical, mystical fucking authority to lord over me. Doesn't fucking exist. Kiss my fucking ass, and I'll take you to the fucking cleaner for it. Pretty cut and fucking dry, All right. And yes, I'm an asshole when I explain this shit because you ought to see some of my mentors. They're screaming at me at the top of their fucking lungs, and it's the only reason that I obtained most of this knowledge or retained it, because the lessons in life that we really learn from are not pleasurable. They cause pain, mental anguish. They fucking hurt. All right. So I'm not here to sugarcoat it and be your fucking friend. I'm here to tell you just the way the fucking world works. All right. And I learned this through the School of Hard Knocks. It was not easy. People go, oh, well, why don't you give this shit away for free? Why do you hold classes for a lousy $100, Derek, if you believe in the people so much? Because a man is worthy of his fucking hire. Period. And my fucking lessons didn't come free to me. They cost me my life, my freedom. I sat in cages. I've been fucking abused by public officials. I've been held as a political fucking prisoner. That shit wasn't fucking free. So for people to come to me with the audacity that I should be somehow purportedly giving all this knowledge and information away for free and not holding classes, kiss my ass. Show me once in your life when anything came for fucking free, because it doesn't. That doesn't mean that I value the Federal Reserve note as an instrument or ability to pay a debt because I know the law. And the law is simple. You can't pay a debt with a debt. And a Federal Reserve note is an instrument of fucking debt carrying a liability because it's private intellectual property of a privately owned organization under the guise and auspice that it's federal only in name only. All right. But unfortunately, people purport that it has value because they consistently use the shit. All right. I also accept gold, diamonds, rubies, nice fucking letters. I also respond to equitable questions of relief. I do all kinds of things because in this world, there is value in almost everything, especially your energy, which is the true currency. Without your energy, the whole system falls apart. None of it works. None of it. Abso-fucking-lutely not a goddamn thing of it works without your commitment and energy and belief in it. Period. All right. So, under 8 FAM 505.2-2, 09 would be the section, says all non-citizen, non-resident, national. All right. That's a declaration that is being made by me. Okay. You show me one agent and agency that's going to testify under the pains and penalties of perjury, carrying the full weight and liability in his commercial as well as personal capacity to say that I am anything other than what I purport to be. And I will show you a homeless fucking vagrant in about 6 months' time. Because that's what I will do for slander and defamation of character and unsubstantiated, unsworn declarations that he can't fucking prove. You see, the only real thing that can be proven in this world is faith. Everything else is a presumption and assumption, and it only stands true in fact if you fail to rebut, rebuke, or otherwise do a negative averment against it. You're the only one who can declare who you are. Period. But it comes from being able to ascend of the mind and realize the power within you. You see, no man has the ability to lord over you because all men are created equal. It doesn't mean that we remain equal. Okay, because some people choose to enter into contracts unwittingly and unknowingly, doing so and binding themselves to certain obligations. Remember, there's a great maxim of law. He who bears the benefit also bears the burden. Okay, so if you're entering into contract not knowing what you're doing, all men are responsible for knowing the contracts they enter into because the contracts they enter into create law and it binds you. And the only way that you've got a way out of it is if it's a unconscious contract, okay? Or if you're the only party to the contract, then you can cancel the contract. Remember, the state of isn't something that jerks off, urinates, defecates, masticates, makes fucking food, hunts, fishes, punch, fights, and fucks, all right? Doesn't have a heartbeat, doesn't have a pulse, doesn't have emotions, doesn't give a fuck about you. All right. Title 8, USC 1101, A21, owing a permanent allegiance to a state. That would be a state of the Union. Okay. The Union of States. Okay. To form a more perfect union down the road. You got to understand the Federalist Papers that nobody talks about. Nobody reads. All right. Go look at the shit. It's there for you. It's all a matter of public record. It's found at the Library of Congress. Anybody can go read it at any fucking time. All right. It's just a matter of applying yourself and using critical thought process to discern fact from fiction. All right. Reality versus fiction. Now, you could use natural person. I hate using it, but with nature, I prefer. With life and propria persona, sui juris, as a sojourner. Sojourner means I am temporarily here. I am cognizant of the fact that although physically I am here today, tomorrow I may be somewhere else. And I may not have this meat sack with me when I go. That's spirituality. That's understanding that there are things greater than what you purport to be this life. Okay? Energy is constantly in motion unless acted upon by an equal or opposite force, right? Where does your spiritual energy go after you cease to exist in this physical realm? Well, there's a lot of speculation to that. But if you have faith, if you believe, if you know in your heart of hearts, there is something greater than your existence on this earth, all right? Who is to tell you otherwise? Think about it. Just logical thought process, rational thought process. All right. I love atheists. I fucking love them because so often they say, well, God doesn't exist. Well, if God doesn't exist, why the fuck you talking about it? I don't talk about pink fucking elephants with polka dots on them. You want to know why? They don't fucking exist. Why would I allow that to pollute my thought process in my mind and talk about frivolous shit that doesn't exist unless I'm planning on building some goddamn fairy tale book, right? Yeah, I know my cussing's a little off the charts today. My apologies. All right. Non-enemy, non-belligerent, non-combatant of the United States. Why would I make that declaration? Because I'm not. As much as I harp on these fucking people, these lying, looting, pandering, piece of shit rat bastards and their organization, I am not an enemy of it. Okay? There is a need for it and they absolutely have a fucking right to do what they're doing. All right. They're lording over the heathens, protecting the land of milk and honey, purportedly. I don't have a fucking issue with it. Do what you gotta fucking do because let's be honest, there's a lot of people out there that if they weren't governed, they don't have the mental capability of governing themselves and would cause a lot of problems throughout for the rest of us who've ascended of the mind and know the difference between bullshit and reality. All right. So I don't have an issue with them. I'm not an enemy, belligerent combatant of them. I don't have any fucking problems with them. If I did have a problem, it would be the fact that they don't educate their agents and agency on how to deal with a man such as myself. In short, just leaving me the fuck alone will resolve a lot of bullshit issues. All right. And for the most part, they do. All right. Man on the earth. I'm a man on the earth. All right. I am not a fiction. I don't live in a state. If I was in a state, the only state I could presumably be in is a state of mind. Rational, logical thought process. Period. To be in a state, the only state you can be in is a state of fucking mind. Now, it all boils down to whether or not you're going to gobble up all their bullshit and allow them to tell you who, what, and when you were created and why you exist and who you are. Or if you know innately in your heart of hearts, your mind, body, spirit, and soul, who and what you are and where you come from, where you hail from, and where you are to return someday. Okay? So, I'm a man on this earth for the time being. I've been put here by a higher power. For what reason? I can purport to know, but I really don't know, and I hope that I'm doing my best to use this gift called life to do what I'm supposed to be doing here. With a permanent residence in the kingdom of heaven. What agent and agency is going to come up testifying of the pains and penalties of perjury that my permanent residence isn't in the kingdom of heaven with God? Who? Where? Show me him. Yeah, didn't think so. Yep, nope, not happening, all right? I know these things. You don't have to know these things. You can purport that I'm fucking crazy, that I'm off my rocker. But, again, the only thing that can ever be proven in this world is belief, period. Everything else is just conjecture, hearsay, speculation, written by other men, right? So I'm just showing them their laws and how they're in harmony with the Creator's law, all right? All rights intact. I don't say all rights retained or returned or blah, 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 blah. They're intact. They're with me at all fucking times, okay? Waiving none. Such a profound statement. All rights intact, waiving none. I see people saying, all rights reserved, all rights revised, all rights blah, 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 blah. No, they're intact. They were intact the day that I was crowned out of my mother's vagina. They've been intact. And rightfully so even before that. Because the Heavenly Father knew me long before he put me on this earth, all right? I've had rights, unalienable rights, from the day that I was manifested in the Almighty God's purview, in his great plan, right? So I've always had unalienable rights, okay? UCC 1-308, 1-207. Why even mention this, right? You're going to go back into their codes, Derek? Really? You're going to go back in their codes? I am simply going back in their codes to show them something. Because their laws reflect my father's laws. Pretty fucking simple. Now, 1-207 left a big fucking gaping wound in their plan, right? So they converted it to UCC 1-308. Now go read 1-207, then go read 1-308 and really look at what they did with it. Now, if you look at UCC 1-103.6, it says that anything that is not in harmony with common law, natural law, nature's God, right, is void, period. So that's why I'm using that, to articulate that fact, all right? Who's going to argue with me? What agency's going to go, oh, that's bullshit. Really? It's the rules that you operate by, scumbags, all right? And he who denies principles shall not be heard. And this is the shit your legislators and your bar attorneys and your rat bastards came up with. So your argument isn't with me. Go talk to the creators of the UCC. I'm just simply pointing out what is written, all right? Waiving all privileges, benefits, and immunities without Almighty God, all right? Now, Yahweh, God, whatever. It's the intent. In equity, we disregard the form and we look at the intent. In equity, we disregard the form and we look at the intent and the subject matter, okay? We completely disregard the form. The form doesn't matter. For example, I can read a 6-year-old's Christmas wish list, right? And just because he doesn't spell Tonka toy properly or Tonka truck or whatever, I innately know in my heart of hearts what he's describing. And because of that, I recognize it. That's equity. There's a lot of people, including myself, that aren't very good at spelling, not very good at punctuations. I'm not very good at proper grammar, if you will. All right? So it's the substance and intent versus the form that we look at. All right? And people that view the law only through the eyes of statutes, codes, city ordinances, rules, and regulations never quite view it as well as the people who look at it with equitable eyes, a pure heart, pure intent, and a good soul, right? A good heart, okay? So let me get this straight. Little Tommy doesn't spell quite right, so you don't go get him a Tonka truck because you didn't understand what he was talking about? That's pretty harsh. Now, I really don't agree with the whole pagan holiday bullshit. I don't really participate in any of that crap. I do things for people on a whim. I do things for people because I want to, because I feel it in my heart. Maybe I see them and I can see they're down and despair and downtrodden with things that plague their minds seemingly they can't escape. So I do things like buy them a flower randomly, or get them a cup of coffee, or a gift card, or fill their tank up with gas. Just something that I feel like doing. Not because it's some special fucking holiday, or because, in the fucking 1096, some great fucking conqueror did something great and we should rejoice in his earnesty and greatness. I do it because, for me, it's the best gift you can ever give, is one that can never be repaid. That's why I do all these free videos. Ain't nobody in this world can ever repay me for the amount of due diligence and effort that I put into this research. And I'm fine with that. I'm great with that. All right? I accept that. To be somewhat philosophical and a scholar and know that I don't fit in a box that we are supposed to be outside the box, viewing with a broad perspective, all right, a real broad horizon. That's really the best you can do. And I love the fact that I have been given a voice, first and foremost, to be able to broadcast something like that. All right? Get out of the box. Let me inspire you just a little bit. All right? I don't have all the answers. I'm not saying I'm 100% right on everything. All right? I'm just telling you, when you look at things objectively, when you look at things in a broader scope and not so narrow-minded, as the culture in the States would have you believe through the indoctrination programs, you can start to see that if it looks like an asshole, smells like an asshole, tastes like an asshole, by God, that's an asshole. All right? And you don't need anybody else to tell you that it's an asshole. But in the school system, they'll tell you, no, that's a rose. You just ain't scratching and sniffing it right. Well, you can tell me whatever the fuck you want, but I know the difference between an asshole and a rose, okay? Real simple shit. If you allow them to construct and mold your mind, then you're subject to it. And you're a prisoner of your own mind for not being able to think outside the box of what you're being told. Real simple shit. I mean, it's just so basic and elementary. Bringing forward the land. Why would I make such a profound statement? Because I am land. I'm land, air, water, electricity, full of fucking minerals. All right? You're a nation unto yourself. You are your own nation. It's not hard to figure that one out. You've got gold. You got anatomic gold in your system. You've got electrical system. You've got an endocrine system. You've got chemicals that are manifested and created within your body. You've got electrical receptors. You've got cannabinoid receptors. You've got tobacco receptors. You create tobacco in your system. All kinds of glorious things when you really start to look at it. But they'll try and hide that from you. They'll try to hide your power, all while trying to lord over you when no man has the ability to lord over another man, because we are all fucking equal. The only thing that separates us is titles. That's why I despise titles on a cellular level. I loathe fucking titles. I think it's the greatest fucking con the world has ever seen is titles. Oh, that's the king. Oh, really? Does he take a shit like the rest of us every morning? Does he urinate, eat, defecate, all that shit? He does? Great. Then he's no more fucking special than me. All right? He's just a fucking man. And for the general populace, they go, oh, no, Derek, he's a king. Oh, really? So he never has an impure thought. He never has thoughts about murder or undignified thoughts about women, or he doesn't have any flaws at all because he's a king, right? The true king of kings, right? He's pure in every way, sense of the word and form. Well, no, Derek. Okay, then the title of nobility doesn't mean a damn fucking thing to me. You can call yourself the king of fucking Zamunda. I don't give a flying fuck. I don't care. Okay? We're all equal. We all bring the land, and the land is where your rights are tied to. From the dirt you come to the dirt you will fucking return. Within the United States of America, okay, the United States of America is the union of states. It's the union of states. What are the states? That brings up the next question. What are the states? The states are the people who all agreed to live by a set of principles and sound doctrines, who created a government to protect their unalienable rights. The right to freedom of the press, the right to freedom of religion, the right to fucking do what they want when they want, so long as they're not violating anybody else's rights. Simple, elementary shit. Without the United States. Now, there are 3 definitions of the United States that are recognized by the United States Supreme Court, which brings up another issue. The United States Supreme Court is not in the Constitution. It never was. It was the one Supreme Court. All right? This is the little Jesuitical tricks they use to cloud your mind, to believe in their land of Hanali. All right? You will not find the United States Supreme Court in the Constitution. Nope. Maybe in their revised version. You won't find it in the organic one. It was the one Supreme Court. So what is the United States Supreme Court? Think about it for a minute. If they were the same thing, why change the nomenclature of said entity? If they're the same thing, what's the need to change the syllables and how it sounds? Okay? There's a purpose behind what they're doing, and you have to be able to decipher it. It's not that fucking hard to see that a Dodge Ram is not the same as well, that's a piss poor analogy. Let me find something better. A Dodge pickup is not the same as to dodge a pickup. They're not the same fucking thing, all right? It's the context for which they are stated, and we got to pay attention to that. Not domiciled in a military-occupied zone, federal territory, federal enclave, Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, I like to call them District of Criminals after I read Mark Twain, Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, Guam, Northern Mariana Islands, and America Samoa. What is important about that poignant statement? Why is that so important? Why would Derek think that it is important to go ahead and let them know in a declaration what he is not fucking a part of? Could it be that the legislator and the Congress only pass edicts that apply to the territories they control? And who would be a participating member of those territories voluntarily? Would it be U.S. citizens? U.S. citizens is what I like calling them. U.S. citizens. Because when you decide to become a U.S. citizen, you shit all over yourself. All right? You shit all over yourself. You waive all your rights. You accept benefits and privileges. If man giveth, man can taketh away. If you don't know who you are, they're there to lord over you because you're presumed and assumed to be a fucking heathen and part of their system that needs lorded over. You're of unsound mind. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. You're non-com mentis. You're a minor ward of the state. Okay? Not competent to handle your affairs as a man or a woman. All right? So I am not domiciled in the military-occupied zone, federal territory, federal enclave, Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands. Okay? Guam, Northern Mariana Islands, or America Samoa. I'm not. I'm outside. Looking in, going, holy fuck, when are people going to figure this shit out? Because the only reason they have the ability to reach out and touch you where you don't like to be touched is because they presume and assume you to be part of their little organization. Thus, you're subject to their rules, regulations, city ordinances, okay? What they purport to be law, which is really just corporate fucking policy. No different than if you work for Walmart. You're subject to their policies. You're bound by their laws, which are really just private policies, period, for their corporation. Invoking the protection of the U.S. Military Department of Defense under the Law of Nations 192, Articles of Surrender, retaining and maintaining one's derogation of sovereignty. Oh, Derek, you just told us that you're not part of their organization, yet you seek out their protection? The United States is not the same as U.S. U.S. is not the United States, and if they were the same, why wouldn't they just say United States Military Department of Defense? They don't. They articulate it as U.S. for a fucking reason, all right? Because they are a single and separate entity. They are of their own, okay? They're contracted with the United States. They're also in contract with the United States of America, okay? Remember, the United States Supreme Court has clearly laid it out. There are three definitions for the United States. One is the United States of America. Then you have the U.S. Then you have the United States. Might behoove you to become familiar with these things. So why would I be invoking their protection? Well, as a nation, as one man standing under God in a republic, all right, I don't have a standing army. And there may be times that I need some type of force to be exhibited by an agency who purports and has an oath to protect said rights, right? So is it wise to invoke the U.S. Military Department of Defense under the Law of Nations, Article 192 of Articles of Surrender, retaining and maintaining one's derogation of sovereignty? You fucking betcha. How many of you remember being skinny little kid in high school who would seek out somebody like me who seemingly cared about other people and say, hey, I got a bully that keeps picking on me. Can you handle that? Why would you seek out somebody else to handle your shit? Well, because I'm weaker, I'm not capable of doing it myself, and I'd really like to be left the fuck alone. And if I go to the school authorities, they just tell me to deal with it. But I know if I come to you, Derek, that you will lay a can of whoop ass like nobody else has ever seen before, and undoubtedly I'll be left alone. So, if you're being picked on by the big fucking bully, you might want to go find the badass in the neighborhood who will put their motherfucking ass in place. And for that, you have the U.S. military, charged with the duty of protecting treaties and the fucking Constitution for all 50 states. All right? They're charged with that duty. And they are very well aware of that. But if you don't invoke it, you don't notify them of who you are, they just think that you're some subordinate, some enemy belligerent combatant of theirs. If you claim to be a neutral, guess what? When I'm in a skirmish and you're standing too close to me and I can't tell if you're friend or foe, and you just put your hands up and say, hey, I'm not in this, I'm going to remove you from the general vicinity of the area of combat because you're a threat to me. I can't identify whether you're a friend or a foe, and claiming to be a neutral is not advantageous for me to be able to have my back to you. So I am going to remove you from the location. It may seem very violent at first, but you'll quickly realize that I'm not attacking you, just simply protecting my ass, watching my own six, covering my shit, covering my bases, right? Rule 101 to win in a fight is the element of fucking surprise. And if I got a guy behind me that surprises me, after I believed him to be a neutral or a non-enemy, well, then I'm my own worst enemy, am I? Am I not? All right? A citizen and national with Arizona identified as an Arizonan. That's Government Styles Manual, Chapter 5, page 95 of 2016. Clearly articulates, I think it's like 24.5, 24.3 or something, 24.4, that articulates how a national identifies, okay? Not a federal statutory citizen, person, individual. What's the importance of that? Well, a federal statutorily governed citizen, person, or individual resides in a federal enclave or territory of the United States, Title 28, 3002, 15A, and is subject to the legislative edicts of Congress and the legislator. All right? I make it perfectly fucking clear who I am and absolutely what the fuck I am not. There's a line being drawn in the sand here. Invoking the protection of Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, FSIA, Title 28, USC, Chapter 97, citing foreign law against a non-resident with no purposeful availment is an abuse of the courts for political purposes and violation of the separation of powers. I'm invoking the fucking law that they are bound by, that they wrote, they created, they recognize. No agent and agency is going to sit there and say, well, that's not true. Go to the Library of Congress and look the shit up. It's true, it's factual, it's written, they all agreed upon it, and it is enforceable. I, Derek, am a constitutionally protected citizen with a capital C. Now, I typically don't like using the word citizen, okay? However, I use it in this context, and it is in proper context. A lot of research went into this. The difference between the lowercase c in citizen and the capital C in citizen. Again, a little Jesuitical trick to change the intent and the purpose of the word. A twisting of a language is so often unworthy of a judge, right? He who speaks of his own infamy shall not be heard, yada, yada, yada. I mean, I can go on for days on maxims that I have crammed inside my head, all right, which are short, pithy sentences that just simply can't be defeated. People have tried for thousands of years to overcome some of these maxims. And to prove my point, many nations have been found without law. Many countries have been found without law, but none without maxims. It's so important. It's such a poignant point. Arizona State National, a true creditor. I can say that I'm a true creditor because I understand how this economic system works. I understand what they have done. I can swear to it under the pains and penalties of perjury and stand firm on my knowledge. Real simple stuff. I'm just going to leave the address part out of it. It's really not fair to you, but I don't think anybody will understand how I articulate that and why I do it. and I really don't have the words to explain it in a fashion that will be comprehensible. So I did this video the other night and people were like, oh man, that video was great, can you put it back up? I took it down for a reason, because I don't want people using it, not understanding it, and finding themselves in trouble. Equity acts upon the person, forcing him or her to do what conscience requires. And if equity acts upon the person, forcing him or her to do what conscience requires, then equity will not suffer a wrong without a remedy. And if equity will not suffer a wrong without a remedy, then equity imputes an intention to fulfill an obligation. And if equity imputes an intention to fulfill an obligation, then equity acts specifically and not by way of compensation. And if equity acts specifically and not by way of compensation, then equity regards that as done which ought to be done. And if equity regards that as done which ought to be done, then equity requires him who seeks equity to do equity. And if equity requires him who seeks equity to do equity proper notice and opportunity, then equity regards the beneficiary as the real owner. And if equity regards the beneficiary as the real owner, then equity delights to do complete justice and not by halves. And if equity delights to do complete justice and not by halves, then equity acts for those disabled to act for themselves. And if equity acts for those disabled to act for themselves, then equity looks to the intent rather than the form. And if equity looks to the intent rather than the form, then equity delights in equality. And if equity delights in equality, then equity requires diligence, pure intent, good conscience, good reason, clean hands, and good faith. I declare, or certify, verify, or state, under penalty of perjury, under the laws of the United States of America, that the foregoing is true and correct, executed on this day, the year of our Lord, 2022. All right? So, I've been working on this document for a while, and I just don't quite think I'm ready to release it to anybody yet. I'm just not there. So I apologize. That is the first page of what is now a 8-page document, and that is just the very first page. And let me just tell you who all it's going out to, first and foremost. The Governor of Arizona, Secretary of State of Arizona, Arizona Attorney General, State Court Admin, or the State Court Administrators for Arizona, the Arizona State Bar Association, Social Security Administration, IRS, FinCEN, Federal Trade Commission, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Secret Service, Department of Defense, Comptroller of the Currency, United States Treasury, Arizona State Insurance Commissioner, United States Department of State, Department of Interior, Department of Homeland Security, United States Department of Justice, United States Health and Human Services, Security Exchange Commission, United States Postal Service. Those are just a few of who this is going to. All right? Just a few. I'm not going to get into the rest of it because there are a few more offices that I'm sending this to. And I want to point out some of the very poignant points that I make in here. Okay? Demand to know who carries the primary active degree of fault for the unincorporated entity known as Derek Chaton Gonzalez, who created it, who owns it, who is liable for it, when was it manifested into existence? Demand to know who carries the primary active degree of fault for the unincorporated entity identified as Derek Chaton Gonzalez, who created it, who owns it, who is liable for it, when was it manifested into existence, and who authorized its creation. All right. 28. Demand to know who carries the primary active degree of fault for the Social Security person identified as Derek Chaton Gonzalez, all capital letters, who created it, is liable for it, when was it manifested into existence, and who authorized its creation. Demand to know who carries the primary active degree of fault for all debts. Demand to know if the state of Arizona or any other state registers people as These are just some of my inquiries to the people who operate the corporation identified as the United States, the U.S. government, the United States government. These are just a few of my questions, my demands of these people who have purportedly taken an oath, which is a trust, but it's only a trust if you accept and acknowledge it. Check it out. Look, if you don't accept and acknowledge that thing, I'm going to tell you right now, it takes two parties to enter into a contract, period. Cut and fucking dry. So although they took this purported oath, and equity imputes an intention to fulfill an obligation, if there's no secondary party, which would be you acknowledging and accepting their oath of office and binding them to it, and when you're accepting and acknowledging it, you're accepting and acknowledging it as the true beneficiary, which makes them the trustee with a fiduciary responsibility. But if you don't acknowledge and accept what they're offering, okay, and you're the true creditor, by the way, he who makes the offer is the debtor. The one who accepts the offer is the creditor, all right? But if you don't do these things, then there's no binding contract. There's no trust manifest, okay? So it's important to understand that. Anyway, those are just a couple of my questions to him I wanted to share with you guys because they're very important, poignant questions. This document is far greater than the last three questions that I asked, but ties it all up into a nice bundle. So I hope this helps you guys out. As far as child support, I shared some videos the other day and people are having issues with him. Oh, he's won. Look, I've done a lot for people, and they've turned around and called me and said, look, because of the information you provided, I won my case. Whether they won it based upon the merits of the poignant points that I bring up or not, I can't affirm. Okay, it's just nothing more than hearsay for you guys. And quite honestly, there's never anybody that sits on a bench that's ever going to explain to you why they made the decision they made. They're just not going to. I've only heard of one instance where an alleged judge has commended somebody that I've helped, and it was very heartfelt, heartwarming, and very encouraging. However, it is not expected of them to do that, and it's very rare that they ever would do that. And that was one of my MVPs, Scott Vaughn, who pulled that off in chambers, in confidence, with the judge, who said, that's the best damn fucking paperwork I've ever seen. 35 years of sitting on the bench, there ain't a lawyer that has ever come into my court and presented such fine documentation. Absolutely amazing, is what he told Vaughn. And that was cool to get that kind of validation, verification, all right? So aside from that, don't expect these people to kiss your ass and tell you why they ruled the way they did. A lot of people are going, oh, some of the information you share, the people that create videos, they've never purported to win anything. Well, you know, what is winning? What really constitutes winning? You know, I was very humbled by Mr. Anonymous one day because you get on here and you talk about these cases you've won, Derek. You didn't win a fucking thing. Stop telling people that. Justice prevailed. If anybody won, the people won. All right? You stood for something. You stood your ground. You didn't win. The people prevailed. Justice prevailed. Stop fucking making it about you, buddy, because it ain't about you. And that was a really humbling conversation with Mr. Anonymous. And I'm very thankful for his intuition and his guidance to make such a profound statement to me. You know, a statement of fact. That shit doesn't belong to you, Derek. You're nobody fucking special. Get that shit over your fucking head. All right? The people prevailed. Justice prevailed. All right? The people had a victory for the day. But it wasn't you. Okay? If you make it about you all the time, that's an issue. That's a narcissistic fucking tendency that people have. Don't make it about you. It ain't about you. It's about everybody. So, with that said, I love you guys. Take this information for what it's worth, a grain of fucking salt. Go do your own research. Go find out who you are and be able to stand on your own 2 fucking feet. Because at the end of the day, you will be tested. People go, oh, well, I use these written documents. And then the judge asked me some questions. And, you know, I just told my stand on my paperwork and he ruled against me. Yeah, because he knows that you don't have the mental wherewithal to take him to the fucking cleaner on the other side. He knows that you don't have what it takes to enforce what you have written into the court. And quite plausibly, possibly, you've purged yourself because you are not the creator of those instruments. And they can see it. They can see it because you don't stand with tenacity. You don't shove your foot up their fucking ass and compel them to do what is supposed to be done. And they can see it, and they railroad you and run right the fuck over you. So if they catch a hinkling that you're weak, they're predators. Predators. If they think you're fucking weak, they're going to run you down like a pack of fucking wolves. That's what they do to put you back in line. We got a slave over here, thinks he's fucking free. Huh? Gonna have to mow that motherfucker over and show the rest of the sheep that they better stay the fuck in line. Can't out here, they can't have a bunch of free-range fucking man roaming around on their fucking plantation, and they will do everything to ensure that most people will never become cognizant. All right. Well, I watched Derek do it. They run him over in court. I heard he's found guilty of a felony and he's going to do 2 years in prison. See, just pay your taxes. Go along, get along, Tom, because if you stand up, they're going to mow you the fuck over. That kid's pretty intelligent. They mowed him over, you know. So just be wise of that. They can't give up the facade, because if they give up the facade, they lose their purported control. We are all first world noble savages on the surrounding island of Zion. Zion is very deep underneath, and 100 stories down on these underground cities beneath the cities we dwell, and the new world. Very interesting. I'll have to check that out, buddy. Anyway, with that, I love you guys. I hope this helps you out a little bit. For you guys involved in child support, just a real quick note. Title 45, CFR 75.2 is what the purported judge, who's in violation of the Separation of Powers Act, filling 2 offices, wearing a black cloak, imitating an agent or officer of the United States, while unjustly enriching himself, is acting as a contractor under Title 45 CFR 75.2 of the Title 4D organization. And because of that, he can't throw you in jail for contempt. He doesn't have the fucking power or the authority or the weight of the government behind him to do anything nefarious to you. Okay? And you can sue him for that because he is not a judge. Which brings about 11th Amendment qualified immunity, which is really a fucking joke. Because if you know that no man is above the law, and ignorance of the law excuses no one, then 11th Amendment qualified immunity presupposes that none of that exists, which is complete and utter horseshit. Horseshit. Nobody is above the law. Not even myself. I am very much bound to the law. I am compelled to obey the law. And I like being a lawful man. I enjoy being a lawful man. I enjoy being able to lay my head down at night knowing that I do my best every day to follow the law. The law is not something that is written by legislators or Congress. The law is innately written on your heart. Don't maim, don't hurt, don't rape, don't rob, don't pillage, don't steal, don't lie, don't loot. Don't take things that don't fucking belong to you. Pretty cut and fucking dry. And if you live by those sound doctrines and principles, you shouldn't have any fucking problems. Okay? But unfortunately, if you don't make your declaration of status of who you are and what you are not, then they are going to presume and assume that you are subject to their legislative edicts. So get off your ass, take it for what it's worth, and let them know who you are and what you will not put up with and how much liability they carry for encroaching upon your unalienable rights. Because you are a peaceful man who is not out there seeking to create insurrectious behavior, sedition, operate with malice or malfeasance, or imitate something that you are not. You're an honest, good man or woman, and they need to be put on notice of that. Real simple. The DMV is not part of the government, ladies and gentlemen. It is a private, for-profit corporation selling your private intellectual property to other agents and agencies so they can use that information against you and unjustly enrich themselves while fleecing you under the guise that the statutes, codes, city ordinances, rules, and regulations apply to you. Okay? And what I call that is taxation without representation, because that's pretty much what the fuck it is. When they bring you into court, say you violated this code, that statute, this provision, this ordinance, blah, 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 but there's no victim, there's no fucking crime, there's no injured or grieved party, there's no affidavit stating who, what, when, where, and how the victim was allegedly caused harm, damage, injury, and loss. That's extortion. It's taxation without representation, and I tell them, fuck off. Kiss my fucking ass. So, With that said, I love you guys, and I'm going to duck out, bail out. I got research to do, paperwork to finish. Know that I love you. Know that I care. I wouldn't do the videos that I do. I don't purport to have all the answers. I am not the most wonderful, all-knowing man on this earth. I want that to be perfectly fucking known. I have never claimed to be, nor will I ever say that I am. I have much to learn. I have much to grow. But it stands to reason, unless we do our own research, unless we prove to ourselves to be competent, the opposite is equally presumed. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for all your input. Thanks for all your support and giving me the ability to continue to do these videos for you guys. I really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon.